Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining the Kansas Animal Disease Traceability webinar this afternoon. So my name is Garrett Girk. I'm the Animal Disease Traceability Coordinator here at the Kansas Department of Agriculture. We'll talk a little bit about the 2024 Federal Animal Disease Traceability Rule, and kind of what that looks like, as well as kind of what Kansas has done up to this point. So we'll go ahead and get started here. So before we get going, I kind of want to go back to the basics and talk about what is animal disease traceability. So when we talk about animal disease traceability, it's knowing where diseased and at-risk animals are, where they've been, and when they were at those locations. One of the things I want to really mention here is throughout the presentation here, I may use ADT, the acronym, instead of animal disease traceability, and just so that we're all clear, it's the same thing there. But anyways, we'll make sure that that's clear. Again, before we get real deep into things, talk about traceability, we typically kind of put things in two broad categories. So the first is that animals, and in this case, cattle and bison, must be officially identified if they are sexually intact, 18 months of age and older, all dairy cattle, regardless of age, breed, and sex, and then cattle used for rodeo and exhibition purposes. And it's those animals that are crossing state lines. The second part to animal disease traceability, that's again been in place since 2013, is that animals moving across state lines must have documentation. So that's a certificate of veterinary inspection, a health paper, a CVI, kind of all that same thing there. So the two parts there is to be officially identified and have documentation. When we talk about what species are covered under the Federal Animal Disease Traceability Rule, we have the species here that you can see. So we call these the covered livestock. So cattle, bison, sheep, goat, swine, equine are captive cervids, and then poultry as well. For the remainder of this presentation anyways, we're going to really focus in and look at our cattle and bison sector of the covered livestock area. So again, traceability has the two broad categories. It's those classes of animals. The moving interstate must be officially identified, have documentation. Let's talk a little bit about kind of what that documentation piece of it has historically looked like. And again, this isn't changing with the new rule, just provide a little bit more clarity as to everything animal disease traceability actually is. When we look year over year from Kansas perspective, we see certificates of veterinary inspection, a health paper, CVI. We see imports and exports are relatively pretty consistent year to year. About 66,000 is what we'll process here in the office. And through August, which is our most complete month that we have, we see that we're right on track to hit that 66,000 again. Those are split pretty much in between imports and exports, about 50-50 as far as that's concerned. When we look at certificates of veterinary inspection and look at paper CVIs versus electronic, we see the imports of that far left pie graph. These are other states sending us certificates of veterinary inspection or CVIs. We see 37% of those are paper in 2024, and about 63% of those are electronic. When we flip that to what Kansas veterinarians are doing here in the state, those numbers are quite a bit different. So we see 93% through 2024 are electronic, and about 7% of those are paper. Because of this, we did release a memo June of 2023 stating that we would be moving to electronic CVIs. So just want to make that aware. And then anytime we talk about traceability and CVI movement, anyways, we definitely want to promote the vet CVI that we have here in the state of Kansas. If you're a Kansas veterinarian licensed and accredited, the free vet CVI application is an app you can download on your phone. And it's, like I said, it's a free CVI to be able to use. Moving now into, again, what it means to be officially identified. This is all of this has been in place since 2013. And so this portion here, we're really taking a look back at 2013 up to present date, and then we'll move into the new rule here in just a second. But I think it's important that we look at a historical perspective as well and see that a lot of this has not changed all the way back to 2013. So under the 2013 Federal Animal Disease Traceability Rule, animals, and again, this case is cattle and bison, moved across state lines that are sexually intact, 18 months of age and older, all dairy cattle, regardless of age, breed, sex, and then rodeo and exhibition cattle and bison must be officially identified. When we talk about what is an official tag or what is official identification, it's a nationally unique identification number. And then we see that that US shield is imprinted on each of those tags. Distribution records are maintained here in Kansas, primarily in the state database that is secure. And then it is unlawful to remove any official tag, whether that be a metal news tag or whether that be an EID tag. Looking at what official IDs currently look like and ones that are out there, we obviously have the metal tags that may be called the Baines tags, the news tags, metal tags. Primarily here, you probably, as a producer, may see the orange calf foot vaccination tag placed at calf foot vaccination, or the silver tag used for just other general identification purposes. Currently, we also have the EID tags, or you may also hear them referred to 840 tags or RFID tags. It's all, again, all the same thing. We like to use lots of acronyms around here. So we have the EID tags that are also official, and you'll see that in both of these, we have that US shield imprinted as well on the metal tags and the 840 EID tags. There's also some match pair sets. So this is kind of a panel tag that can be used for some more management purposes, while also having the capability of having the RFID component or the EID component within those tags for disease traceability purposes as well. Again, both of these tags have that US shield and are considered official. And then the last one we have here is actually a USDA approved back tag. And so back tags are official for one purpose and one purpose only. And that is to move directly from an approved livestock market in the state of Kansas to a slaughter establishment, and that animal is slaughtered within 3 days. Otherwise, that back tag is actually not considered an official identification. Looking at tag distribution in the state of Kansas year to year, again, we'll get into the new rule here in just a second, but I want to make sure we have a solid understanding of kind of where we're at now. We see the news tags, so the OCV, or those metal orange tags here. We see the SB, or the silver bright tags, is that kind of that next cluster for general identification purposes. A lot of these tags are being placed at our livestock markets primarily. We have the EID tags that have been purchased by industry or by vet clinics or wherever that may be at. So we see that. The EID tags that are free, those are the no-cost EID tags that USDA has provided to states. We'll get into that in just a little bit here in a second. And you'll see that only started in 2020. So that's why we don't see any data there for 2018 or 19. Then the scrapie tags, we do distribute a handful of those year over year for our sheep and goats. And then swine inserted tags, we have just a few. So through August of 2024, 2018 through August of 2024, the state of Kansas has distributed just over 6.6 million official identification tags. This includes all species. So I want to get a little interactive here and want to hear from you guys. I have a question up here on the screen. Why is animal disease traceability important in Kansas? Or if you're not from Kansas, why is animal disease traceability important in your state? So want to get some answers here. feel free to put those in the chat, or if you can unmute yourself as well. Yeah, so Dr. Minix put in there that being able to trace those animals in the event of a disease, and that's, yeah, just right. Christy, there's some stuff coming in. So yeah, some disease outbreak control. There's a great comment in here about still remembering that cow that stole Christmas, and really that's kind of where the USDA animal disease traceability started from, was that cow that stole Christmas. So great comment in there. And if you haven't heard that story, and how that was very hard to trace that animal down, which ended up being a cow from Canada, yeah, I'd encourage anybody to look at that. So great comment there. So when we look at why we think animal disease traceability is important in Kansas, a couple slides in my mind come to the top. And when we look at one, where we're located geographically within the United States and the volume of animals coming into the state, I think it's important for us to get our bearings as far as that's concerned. And there were several comments there about a disease outbreak. And so when we look at these next numbers, you'll see that yeah, the risk to Kansas is high, and without disease traceability, things can spread really rapidly. So last year we had looked in the state of Kansas at somewhat redoing some of our disease response plans. A question was asked, in a 72-hour period, do we know how many states we imported from and the head counts on all of those covered livestock? So we didn't really know that. I mean, we know we have all the information, but we never pulled it in that sense of looking at it. So when we look, what I did is I went back in the database and looked from March 13th, 2023 through March 15th, 2023, and pulled some information out, and the results kind of shocked us. So in the state of Kansas, that 72-hour period of time, we imported from 32 different states on 323 movement documents. And then you can see there the head counts for yourself. 2,800 or 28,000 beef animals, just shy of 5,000 dairy, and over 10,000 swine. Again, that's in a 72-hour period. So we kind of thought, man, that was lucky. We kind of hit the jackpot on that. So we decided to run the information again, and this time looked at a different date, different year, and this is May 1st of 2024 through May 3rd of 2024. So just a couple months ago. And here's what we saw this time: 30 different states, 317 movement documents. We see almost 35,000 beef animals. This time our dairy animals were down 1,500, but our swine numbers were pushing 21,000. And so yeah, we see all these animals coming into the state on all these movement documents, and it doesn't matter what time of year I pull the information from, or what 3 days. It's always pretty consistent between 28 and 35 different states and 300 to 330 movement documents. The head counts fluctuate, obviously, and the number of states and which states fluctuate. But relatively speaking, we see that this is pretty consistent with everything. However, it's important to know that all this information does not account for a few things here. So the information here doesn't account for movements direct to an approved livestock market, doesn't account for movements direct to slaughter, does not account for movements, which we call pass-through movements from Missouri to Colorado, and doesn't account for any illegal movements that didn't have proper documentation. So when we take all four of those, we see that the importation into the state of Kansas is significantly high. And that's why we see that animal disease traceability is important in the state of Kansas, because of all this movement coming in from all across the country. And it takes one ill animal to really pretty rapidly make its way into the state. So the 2013 USDA Animal Disease Traceability Rule was first established in 2013. And we've come a long ways since 2013. Looking back, the new show on the block was Duck Dynasty. The iPhone of the time was the iPhone 5, and we start really seeing a lot of these metal ear tags coming into play. And obviously, a lot's changed since 2013. And so, what the new USDA 2024 rule that's being will be implemented November 5th is trying to update that rule from from having old systems into some of the new. And so the 2024 Animal Disease Traceability Rule was first posted in the Federal Register for public comment on January 19th of 2023. The comment period ended on March 20th of 2023. And then the comment period was actually extended an additional 30 days to officially end on April 19th of 2023. USDA received just over 1,100 comments, and in May 2024, they published the final rule into the register, becoming effective 180 days after the publication date, meaning that what you see there on the screen, that the rule will become effective November 5th of 2024, which is just a little over a month from today. So what does the new ADT rule, as you may hear it call? So the first one is it only recognizes official ID as being both electronically and visibly readable. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. There's some additional record-keeping requirements that address issues of accuracy, quality, completeness, availability, and accessibility, and must be reproducible within 48 hours if requested by a federal or state animal health official. And then there's a definition that really tries to clarify what it means to be a dairy animal. And it'd be any offspring of a dairy sire or dam. So if the dam is of a dairy breed, the offspring is considered a dairy for disease traceability purposes, as well as if the sire was a dairy breed, the offspring would be as well. Again, these all become effective November 5th of 2024. So under the new rule, it's important for us to remember that nothing about the class of animals that would be required to be tagged changed. So we're still saying that, and it still will be only sexually intact, 18 months of age and older, all dairy cattle, regardless of age, breed, and sex, and then all rodeo and exhibition cattle. And it's those three classes of cattle that are crossing state lines that would need an electronic identification. Official tags, again, effective November 5th, we see the same four things here. It's still a nationally unique official ID number. That distribution record's still maintained. Again, here in the state of Kansas, primarily in the state database, they have that U.S. Shield imprinted on them. It is unlawful to remove these tags, and what we're adding in is that component of it being both visibly and electronically readable. Current tags that are official, obviously we saw this slide earlier. However, coming November 5th, we'll see that those metal tags actually disappear, and we see that the only tags there that are considered official are those electronically readable tags. You'll see that the back tag's still there. Back tags will still be considered official for that one very specific purpose, which is moving directly from an approved Kansas livestock market to a slaughter facility, and then that animal slaughtered within 3 days. A couple of the EID tag facts that I think are important for individuals to realize. Historically, under the metal tags, each state had a code. So Kansas was 48, Nebraska was 47, and so on and so forth. And I know most people probably have at least the surrounding states and the ones they see pretty common, probably have those prefixes memorized and know that, oh, that animal was tagged in Colorado or Oklahoma or wherever that was. It's not necessarily the case here with the EID tags, and instead, the prefix, which you see here, is 840 for all official identification tags, and that 840 designates that animal was from the United States. Likewise, if you see a prefix of 124, designates that Canada was that animal's country of origin, as well as the prefix 484, which designates Mexico as the animal's country of origin. So a little bit different there than what we're used to seeing in the metal tags, but just know that an official USDA EID tag starts with 840, designating the United States, and has that official shield. The other thing here is that in order to read an EID tags with a reader, the reader must be approximately 6 inches away. So I know there's a lot of confusion out there, as if it's an electronic tag, you can read it from long distances. That's actually not the case here. And for the primarily the tags that are out there, which are the low frequency, we'll talk about here in a second. Yeah, it's only 6 inches in which you can read that tag. So can't read them with a drone, can't read them from across the pasture. You're gonna have to be fairly close to be able to read those with the reader. Again, we talked about this just a second ago. So there are two frequencies of EID tags kind of out there. So the most common one that we see is the low frequency EID tag. Again, you must be about 6 inches, maybe a foot away to be able to read that tag. So you definitely have to be quite close. The other one we have, which USDA has approved, however, there are no current manufacturers that are producing these tags, to my knowledge, is the ultra high frequency. These tags can have or can be read at a little bit of a longer read distance. However, like I said, currently not any available through manufacturers, at least that I'm aware of. The other one here is we have two types of transmission with the EID tags, and this one's a little harder to explain and probably not super imperative for most people, but we do have a half duplex and a full duplex. And so the half duplex is by far the most common, and then the full duplex is not that common. And if you're anything like me listening to it, you'd probably ask, well, what does that actually mean, Garrett? What's half duplex and what's full duplex? It doesn't make any sense. So half duplex is you can think of it when the reader is read, that tag is transmitting back to that reader that EID number in a short magnetic pulse. And so you can think of it like a heartbeat, boom, 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 boom. And then the full duplex is a little bit different, where it's a continuous magnetic field or a continuous read. So you can think of that as more like a stream of water. It's just always kind of going until that reader stops, and then that tag is there. So some differences there on half duplex and full duplex. Again, probably not anything super important for people to know, but in case there are questions on that, there are those two different availabilities. So again, half duplex by far the most common. And then the other thing that we hear a lot of here in Kansas is that the tags can store information, and that's not true. Tags can only transmit the 15-digit number that's engraved on that tag. So the tag you see here on the screen starts 840, meaning its country of origin was the United States. So it's 840-003-123-456-789. When that tag would be scanned by an EID reader, the only information that you would get out of that tag would be that exact number, 840-003-123-456-789. The tags don't store any information on them other than what is engraved exactly on that tag as the number. So the question may be asked now of, okay, we understand it. So how do we get these tags? So there's kind of two steps here, and we'll walk through these. So the first one is to obtain a premises identification number, or a PIN. And so a premises identification number is required when ordering the official EID tags, either from us at the state or through a tag manufacturer or distributor. However, I want to make one thing clear, and This is often a common question we get and can be a little confusing. If an accredited veterinarian is placing an official EID tag in a producer's animal, a PIN is not required for that producer. So if you go out and you're calf foot vaccinating, and you're placing those EID tags, which will have to happen after November 5th, that producer doesn't need a premises identification number. It's only if that producer is ordering those tags directly from a tag manufacturer that PIN is required. So what is a premises identification number? It's a 7-digit unique number assigned by the Kansas Department of Agriculture to a unique geographical location. Registering your premise and obtaining a PIN does provide KDA with specific location information that will allow the accurate and efficient tracing of those animals in the event of a disease outbreak. It's also important to know that all PIN information is confidential within the state of Kansas, and we do not share that information with anyone. So in order to get a PIN, there's you can go to our website. There's a little box down at the bottom that says get a PIN. You'll click on that, and this PDF will come up and fill out the information. Essentially, it's asking some contact information as well as the species that you have on site. We do not ask for the number of animals you have on site, just what kind you have on site. So step 2, after you get that PIN, and typically that only takes us half a day at the very most to get that back to you, but sometimes it does take a little longer. So when you get that PIN back, you can order those tags from the manufacturer or distributor. So here's several different companies that are either manufacturers of those EID tags or a distributor of those EID tags. Again, this is also on our website. There's a how to obtain official EID tags kind of handout with those 2 steps listed: registering your premises identification number and then ordering those tags. Again, it has those tag manufacturers listed there for convenience to look at, and would encourage anybody looking to get EID tags to 1, make sure you have a premises identification number, and then 2, looking at some of those different tag options, or manufacturer options, I should say. The other thing, we've talked about it a little bit, but since 2020, USDA has provided the state of Kansas and all states with a number of no-cost EID tags. It's important to note that in Kansas, the no-cost EID tag allotment is distributed strictly to licensed and accredited veterinarians in Kansas and Kansas livestock markets. So if you're a producer, what we encourage you to do is to reach out to your local veterinarian, as they more than likely have a supply of those at their clinic. So if you're producer, reach out to your local veterinarian. It's also important to realize that the availability of the no-cost EID tags is on a year-by-year basis and is based on available funding from USDA. There is no guarantee of no-cost EID tags into future years. So just make sure we're all aware of that. Talked a little bit earlier about the record keeping requirements. So if a federally accredited veterinarian applies a tag to a client's animal, they should record that official ID information in a readily accessible system of their choosing. The responsible veterinarian must be able to reproduce those records containing the specified ID information within that 48-hour time period, if requested for investigation and disease purposes. It's kind of a change there, and really not so much a change that it's new, it's that 48-hour time period that has changed. Veterinarians have always had to keep those records for 5 years, and so we ask that they now be able to be reproducible in a 48-hour time period. If a federally accredited veterinarian distributes tags to a producer or other entity for non-regulatory purposes, the veterinarian should submit those distribution records to the state and keep a record of those for 5 years. So when if that producer who's wanting those EID tags comes to you and says, hey, I'd like to get some of the EID tags, and you distribute those to that producer. We want to make sure that we have information of that, and that we can, not quite the way how it works, but it's the easiest to make it make sense, is we transfer those tag numbers out of your account into their account. And so making sure that we have all that information is important as well. So we've talked a lot about different things here. So what are some of the resources and outreach that we've done here at the Kansas Department of Agriculture? So obviously we've hosted 2 webinars. You're on the second one of 2. So we hosted one last Thursday at 7:30 in the morning. And then obviously the one today here at noon. There's been, I've done some radio interviews, and those have been playing off and on the last couple weeks on KFRM. If you have a chance to listen to that, would encourage you to do so. We've also, this past summer, been able to host 8 regional workshops scattered across the state of Kansas, where we talked not only about animal health events and emergency management, but also about some of the new ADT rules, and allowed a question and answer time period in there. There's also an EID tagger and resource page within our website here. On that page, there's lots of information on different tag types, different frequently asked questions, different tagger options. As we know, oftentimes there is a different tagger that you do have to use, and different reader options. So we want to make sure that that is available to everybody, that they can go on there and look and see what may be beneficial for their operation. There's also the How to Obtain EID Tags handout that we showed earlier, as well as a frequently asked questions sheet. Those 2 QR codes there, hopefully we'll hold both of those up for you for that, if you're interested in looking at that. We've provided information the last several newsletters in our animal health newsletter. That goes out to about 3,000 individuals. So making sure that we're putting that in there. There's been some flash reports to accredited veterinarians on the rule. And we've also sat on a panel at the ADT panel at the Flint Hills Beef Fest down in Emporia. And more than likely, we'll have some other opportunities as other state associations have conventions here coming up soon. Before we kind of open it up to questions, I want to address some of the frequently asked questions that I get quite often. So the first one is, again, what animals will be impacted by that new ADT rule? And again, there's no change to the type of animals that are required to be officially identified. Clear back to that 2013 ADT rule. If you remember that it was still all those cattle and bison sexually intact, 18 months of age and older, all dairy cattle, regardless of age, breed, and sex, and then cattle used for rodeo and exhibition purposes. Again, it's not a change from the 2013 rule. It's an amendment to the rule, changing the type of tag, not the class of animals. One of the questions that we get asked a lot is this one here, and one that I think typically I get a sigh of relief when people hear this. And so if my animal is already officially identified with the USDA metal visual only tag, will I be required to apply an EID tag? And the answer is no. So if your animal already has a metal tag prior to November 5th, that metal tag will be considered official for the duration of that animal's life. And there won't be any need to re-tag that animal, as that metal tag will be considered official. The last kind of frequently asked question here is, will I have to buy additional equipment to be able to read the tags? And the answer is no. If you remember back to some of those pictures, it's that number is also engraved on the outside. And so you can read that tag visually. Again, part of that rule is that it has to be able to be read both visually and electronically. And so there is no need to necessarily have additional equipment. It does make things easier, but it's not actually required. Then one more I didn't put up here, but has come up, it seems like the last couple of days more frequently than I had heard it in the past, is will when I calf foot vaccinate, will I have to put an EID tag in? And the answer is yes. It is all official identification. So even when you're calf foot vaccinating, those metal tags will not be able to be used after November 5th. It will need to be an EID tag. So Even when you're calf foot vaccinating, those EID tags are going to be considered the official tag, and will need to be placed. With that, I want to open it up for some questions. Hopefully we get some good ones here. We can go back in slides. Feel free to unmute yourself, put them in the chat there, and yeah, let's see what we got. Any questions? There's one. How does it work when an animal loses an official tag, and who is responsible for updating the number? Great question there. So if an animal does lose its official tag, and the previous tag is known, what we ask is that you let us know that the old tag number and the new tag number that you would be replacing it with. And what we will do here in the office is merge those two numbers together, so that no matter which tag number we search on, in the event of a trace, that animal would come up. So great question there. Who's responsible for updating the number? Again, that's going to be up to us, but we also have to know that information in the first place. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute, throw it in the chat there. I know it's over everybody's lunch hour, so hopefully if you were getting something to eat during this, you had a good lunch. All right, I'm not seeing anything. I'll give it just a second longer here. Otherwise, we'll end it for today. This was recorded, and we will post these to our animal health webpage, or our website, under the outreach and education. So if you want to look at that afterwards, or share it with somebody, feel free to do that. But not seeing any other comments or questions. So with that, I think we will end. Unless there's, like I said, unless there's anything else. All right. Well, I'm not seeing anything. So thank you. Thanks everybody for joining. Again, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to the Division of Animal Health. Happy to answer any of those questions, and we'll talk to everybody later. Thank you.